Welcome back to another Gaming Memories video. Here we are taking a look at Rally de Europe 2000. This is actually a sequel to a previous game I did called Rally de Africa that was released in 1998 by the same developer, Prism Arts. So this is actually a sequel to that game. And essentially it's more of the same kind of concept. It's a rally type game, but it's also arcade based. And like I mentioned in the previous video, if you've ever played the likes of the Sega rally games on the arcade or even on the Sega Saturn, you'll be instantly familiar with how this game actually looks. So again, as this is being a sequel, there's actually it is a bigger game overall. There's a bigger selection of cars available, and you actually have more tracks and more type of challenges and championships and so forth to go through. So there's a lot more here to really kind of keep you playing for longer. One big thing to note about this game compared to the previous game is in the previous game you literally had short stages where it was only just from point A to point B and you'd finish the race, whereas this here now they've completely changed that, so there's no point to point races anymore now. So it's literally just lap based, so for every race you start off between 2 to 3 to 4 laps depending on the class that you're actually in and depending on the cars that you're driving. So the races do tend to take a little bit longer. Now I have to say, after playing this here, once I found out about the original game, I managed to actually get the chance to find out about this and play this as well. And it's instantly familiar. The handling physics in the car, they haven't changed pretty much since the original game, which I thought the handling characteristics in the original game were actually really good, and it did remind me of the likes of Sega Rally. So this here is no different. It is actually a very good game. The one thing I will say is because the tracks are longer, there's a lot more diversity to the tracks. There's a lot more twists and turns, and they're not as wide in most parts compared to the original game. So the tracks are a lot narrower, so they are a bit more difficult to navigate. All in all, this game is actually a more difficult game than its predecessor, as I mentioned. So it takes a bit more getting used to. I actually did have to take a few tries on the races to actually really kind of get to grips with it, because it is quite difficult to win the races, and especially when you go up to higher classes it does become more difficult over time to actually win races and even get on podium positions and so forth, so that you can qualify for the next round of the championship and so forth. So it definitely takes a bit of work to really kind of get used to it. But that's not to say that that's anything bad. It's still a very enjoyable game. It has really good graphics. The environments are fantastic. There's very little in terms of frame rate slowdown. It's very similar to the original game and how it plays. Although in saying that, from playing this here, the original game does for some reason feel, maybe it's just me, but it did feel that the cars it felt a little bit faster compared to this game. This game did feel just a little bit slower, but it could be due to like I mentioned, like the frame rate and the textures on the environments and so forth. Make it sometimes that can play havoc with your eyes. You're seeing things differently, but that's a minor kind of gripe. This is actually a very good game, and it's very enjoyable. And if you're into these type of games, I highly recommend that you actually give it a go. I will admit though, comparing the two games, even though this here does have a lot more to offer, I will admit, in my personal opinion, I did enjoy the Rally de Africa a lot more than I enjoyed this here. Maybe due to the fact that this here was just presenting a lot more of the same kind of ideas, but it just had different variations of tracks and different cars and so forth. But again, it still had the similar type of gameplay, similar handling physics, so at least you kind of felt instantly familiar. But for some reason, I just think I enjoyed the original game just as much. But I do find that with a lot of games as well, especially with racing games. Usually if there is a few games in the series, I always tend to gravitate more to the original game than I do to the sequels, because they're the ones that always kind of got me into it in the first place, so I always tend to enjoy them a lot more. You know, even like if I not so much compare it to Gran Turismo, even though Gran Turismo was a very different game, it's more of a simulation. But the original Gran Turismo game, even though there's been plethora of sequels as the years have gone on, even up until recent years, for me the original game in that series is still, for me, the best in the series. I know Gran Turismo 2 was a better game, but I still love the first one. The first one for me was just the one that hit at home for me, and I still go back to play that regularly even to this day. I absolutely love that game. So I do find with a lot of these games that I do actually get involved with and I find out about, I do always tend to gravitate a lot more to the original titles in the series more so. It's the same even with the likes of the Resident Evil series, as I always rave about in the videos, because Resident Evil 1 is my favourite game of all time, and I always gravitate towards that, even though there is better games in the series, but the original for me is still the best because it's the one that got me involved in it. And I do find that with a lot of these games, with like racing games in general and the whole lot, I always find the first game was always had something unique, even though it was not probably as perfect as the sequel. The sequels obviously had a lot more and ironed out a lot of the flaws, but there's always something unique about the flaws and the ambition of the original titles that really stands out more so than anything else. And in this case, the original title in this here was no different. But that's not to say that this is actually a bad game. This is actually not. This is actually a really, really good game, and I do highly recommend anybody that's into their hard arcade racers and that's looking for an adequate challenge, definitely to give this a go. For sure. You won't be disappointed with it. And like I always keep saying as well, it's amazing to think of the amount of racing games that are out there on the system that have never really seen the light of day in the likes of America and Europe, and there's so many fantastic games across the platform on the PlayStation 1, and now is the perfect time to really kind of get stuck in and make a whole new set of memories in games that you're playing. Not only to revisit old games, but to explore and experience games that you may never have gotten to play. That's exactly what I'm doing, and that's what I'm doing with this channel and creating these videos, because it's given me the opportunity to be able to explore again and to experience all these games that I only hoped of playing years gone by but never got the chance to, and then even to explore new games like this that I didn't even know existed. So for me this is the perfect opportunity in which to do so, and then to showcase my ideas, my views, my memories, and even just to share them all with you guys and to see what you think of them as well, because the PlayStation is such a unique console. It always has been, it always will be. It's my number one favourite console of all time. So for me, that I've even with all the games I am experiencing, I've still only scratched the surface of what the console still had to offer. When I look at what the games that I'm finding, there's so many unique games, which is actually incredible. And I'm just going to continue to try and play as many of them as I possibly can, and just keep creating as many videos as I can, because it's definitely a fantastic experience. So I highly recommend that anyone that is into the PlayStation, definitely, for sure, get stuck in and get involved in playing these games. And like I said, make up new experiences and gain new memories from them, because they are unique. So at the end of the day, you've got nothing to lose, go for it and enjoy it, for sure. So even going back to this game again, like compared to the original game, you do have a lot more in terms of championships. For each class now you've actually got a separate set of challenges which are own like mini kind of championships within it. So you have to complete so many races and get podium positions in order to be able to unlock the next challenge and so forth, so that you can progress, so that you can unlock the future classes to gain access to faster cars and so forth. So there is a lot of progress requirements in this game to be able to really get the most out of it. But again, it's all part of the enjoyment process of playing these type of games. And there's enough of a challenge here to really kind of keep you on your toes and to keep you playing and to keep pushing and trying to get better at it the whole time. And it's a very enjoyable game, I have to say. So I highly recommend that you play it if you haven't done so already. So what are your thoughts on Rally D Europe 2000 for the PlayStation 1? Have you played it? Have you experienced it? And if so, what are your thoughts behind it? Did you enjoy it? Make sure to let me know down in the comments below. So if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, also hit that subscribe button, and make sure to hit the bell icon, as you will get notified whenever I release future videos, as I am going to be releasing more videos on games like this and exploring other games that I've never gotten to play, or even revisiting old games and share my experiences and memories with them, and then obviously to get you to experience them as well. So as always, make sure to keep playing and enjoying these classic games and getting the most out of them, and make sure to keep those gaming memories alive.